Hey everybody, Math Day 86, and here's our poem riddle for the day. Ice cold. Frozen, shiny, glassy spikes, tempting treats for little tykes. Please don't eat them, Mother cried. Find a clean one, Father sighed. Can you count each icy treat before they'll melt in this heat? Here's a hint to help you count. The number's 5's a smart amount. Four plus one is 5. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. Cumference and the Isle of Immeter by Cindy Neuschwander, illustrated by Wayne Gehan. Circumference. Young Pear sat with her uncle and aunt, Circumference and Lady Di of Immter. Her cousin Radius was teaching her the game of inners and edges. A player makes a shape out of tiles, calling out the number of squares used, explained Radius. The first person to correctly count all the outside edges keeps those pieces. So there are the squares. They put 9 out. How many outside edges? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. How many inners? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Circumference arranged his tiles into a square. Inners are 9, he said. 12 edges, counted Pear, gathering up her winnings. Lady Di made one long row of tile. Inners again are 9, she said, and edges are 20, exclaimed Pear. I love this game. It belonged to the Countess Arianina, said Circumference. She used to live out on the Isle of Immeter, just off the coast. A sea serpent is said to guard the place now, so no one dares to go there. That evening, Pear played the game by herself. She made several shapes with the tiles, thinking about the edges. With squares, I can count just one side and multiply 4. For rectangles, I can add one long side and one short side together, then double it. Pear put the pieces away, noticing a picture of Immter's castle in tiny words painted inside the box. The secret of Immter is the name of the game, one where the inside and outside edges are the same. That night she dreamed about the little island and the mysterious message. Pear woke up early the next morning. Determined to visit the castle and discover the secret, she tiptoed into the kitchen. Radius was already there. You're up early, he remarked. I'm going to sail out and explore the island, Pear answered. Would you like to come along? Why not, said Radius, stuffing an orange into his pocket. The sea serpent is probably a myth. Radius and Pear hurried down to the dock. They boarded a small sailboat and headed for Immter. We'll be there in no time with this breeze, said Radius. When they reached the island, they walked around the castle. They counted 7 walled-in doorways. These doorways remind me of a giant inners and edges game, said Pear. This one is 14. Radius nodded and said, and 12 inners. But that was fast, said Pear. I multiplied the 4 stones down the side by the 3 stones across the top, answered Radius. It's quicker than counting each one. So they use multiplication. At the fifth doorway, Radius said, inners are 16. Edges are also 16, said Purr. The inside and outside are the same number, remarked Radius. Inners and edges box said, open where inside and edges are the same, exclaimed Parrot. Could this be the entrance? She tapped on a stone, and the door rumbled open. The two cousins stepped inside, just as large waves began crashing against the castle walls. Purr and Radius found themselves in a hall with a grand stairway. They noticed a large A in the middle of the floor. That A may stand for Ariana, said Purr, and look, there's a rhyme around the letter. Count half as many inside as out. This unlocks the towers without a doubt. Count what? Radius said, gazing around the empty hall. How about those key shapes? Answered Pear. Keys unlock towers. Suddenly, a window high above them shattered and snaked the head of a serpent. Its eyes glowed green gold and its scales shimmered like jewels. Quick, let's start counting, Pear cried out as the creature howled at them. She pointed to the first key shape. 28 edges. 15 inners, said Pear. That's not half as many inside as out. They tried another one. 22 edges, but that's only 10 inners. Then Pear found one with 24 outside edges. There are 12 inside. That equals half the edges. This is the one. One of the tiles was loose, and Radius lifted it up and saw a key. He grabbed it, and they ran to the nearest tower. They unlocked the door, ran inside, slammed it shut. We're safe for now, gasped Pear. Radius looked at the ribbon tied to the key. There are words on it. Where 200 floor squares fit inside, Immter's secret does reside. How can square tiles fit on the floor of a round room? Answered Purr. Radius shrugged. Right now I'm too hungry to think. He pulled the orange out of his pocket and cut the fruit and gave part to Pear. This slice is round like the tile floor, she said. She cut the pieces into 2 halves. Then she stretched the halves out and fit them together. There, now the circle has been reshaped into a rectangle. A lumpy, bumpy rectangle, observed Radius. So Purr cut the 8 orange segments equally into 16 smaller ones. Then she arranged them into a smoother rectangle. Much better, she said, and we already know how to figure out the inside of this shape. Right, said Pear. It's just like with the castle doorways. You multiply one long side by one short side. Halfway around the orange slice is the same as the long side, observed Pear, and the length of an orange segment is about the same as the short side. So we just multiply the 2 measurements to get the inners of the circle. Large side of the rectangle is half of the circumference. Short side is the radius. Pear looked around the room. Imagine that the floor is a giant orange slice that I've cut and stretched out. Halfway around is the same as the long side of the rectangle, so I need to measure the distance around half the tower. Pear's boot was the same length as a square stone tile. She counted off 22 steps around the top half of the room. I also have to measure the distance from the edge of the room to its center, said Purr. That will be the short side of the rectangle, or the radius. She stepped off 7 squares. Radius multiplied the 2 measurements. 22 times 7 equals 154. That's not enough, replied Pear. We need to find a room with 200 floor squares. Let's keep looking. What about the sea serpent, said Radius. They cautiously opened the door. Everything was quiet. Let's go, said Purr. Together they scrambled up a ladder and ran across the highway. Down below, the sea serpent erupted out of the water. Reaching up to grab them, it crashed into the stones. The walkway collapsed into the sea. just as Radius and Purr entered a second tower. That was a close call, said Purr, catching her breath. They climbed up a spiral staircase, and at the top, Purr and Radius found themselves in a bell tower. I don't think the sea serpent can reach us here, said Purr. Let's hope not, answered Radius, peering over the edge. Immediately, Purr counted off 25 boot lengths around the half of the outside edge. She then counted another 8 steps from the center. 25 times 8 equals 200. Hey, this is the place. Now what do we do? Look, said Radius, pointing to the words on the ceiling. The squares in the circle are the secret's key. Use the number to signal the sea. This bell could be the signal, said Purr, pulling on the rope. Radius covered his ears and counted as Purr rang it 200 times. After the last peal, the ocean began churning and foaming. The monster rose up from the depths and faced Purr. She stood before it, trying not to tremble. The creature's jaw opened, and Purr could see a row of gleaming teeth. Out of its mouth dropped a jeweled locket. Purr caught it and looked inside. There was a note. The Isle of Immeter is yours to keep. This palimpsest will protect you, awake or asleep. The note was signed by the Countess Ariana. Are you the palimpsest? Purr asked the creature. The sea serpent snorted and bowed before her. Look how happy he is now. He doesn't look so scary at all. Radius and Purr returned to the mainland riding on the palimpsest. Cumference and Lady Di spotted them from the castle and rushed down to greet them. Mercy me, they exclaimed. You're riding on a sea serpent. We've had an amazing adventure, said Purr. Well, tell us all about it, said her aunt and uncle. We unlocked the secret of the castle, said Radius. Purr is now the rightful owner of the Isle of Immeter. We had to find a round tower room that contained exactly 200 floor squares, added Purr. We discovered that if you multiply the distance halfway around a circle by the distance from the edge to the center, you'll know how many squares could fit inside. Cumference smiled. So half of the circumference times the radius equals the inside of the circle, or the area. Ariana. The next day, Cumference and Lady Di held a special celebration for Purr. People from miles around attended. On behalf of the Countess Ariana, I pronounce you Lady Pair of Immter, said Cumference. This adventure has taken you full circle. Purr curtsied. Thank you, she said. I'm really good now at counting edges. Cumference laughed. So you are, and for this reason the outside edge of any flat, straight-sided shape shall be called the perimeter after you. What should we call the inside of these shapes? Asked Lady Di. Let's call it area, suggested Purr, in honor of Countess Ariana and her amazing floors, and everyone burst into a round of applause. Cumference and the Isle of Immeter.